Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1244B, and today's date is April 2nd, 2017, and the title of the episode is, The Floodgates Are Wide Open. It's all about to come out. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I placed an interview with Jeff Nielsen on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will bring you to that channel. You can view the interview right there on YouTube, or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right hand side, you will see the video there, or you can go to newssentinel.com, same thing, you scroll down a little bit, look over to your right hand side, and you will see the video there, and you can play it right on the site. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we talked about immigration quite a bit, and we understand now that the deep state, the establishment, they're trying to blur the entire immigration issue into one, where you have illegal immigrant and immigrant, and they're saying they're all immigrants. No, they're separate and apart. An immigrant who comes to this country, well, they go through the channels, they do it legally, they enter the country, they get a job, and they're out there working if they can find a job. An illegal immigrant, well, they sneak over the border, they have no vetting whatsoever, they're brought into the cities, and they're kept in these sanctuary cities where nobody can touch them. And the government comes in and they give them benefits, they give them working papers, and they say, okay, you can go out there and do whatever you want to do. You're part of the system now. Now again, these individuals are illegals. They didn't go through any type of vetting process whatsoever. Yes, they're trying to convince you that they are, but they really aren't. And they're brought to these sanctuary cities where the cities from the federal government are receiving billions and billions of funds for people who are illegal, who broke the law coming into the country. And we can see right now, Michelle Malkin, she appeared on Fox, and she's saying, you know something, we need to stop calling these cities sanctuary cities. We need to start calling them outlaw cities, because these are the areas, these are the cities that are protecting outlaws, where these individuals broke the law coming into this country. They jumped over the border. Listen, why do we need the border if we're not going to enforce it? What's the whole purpose of it? And she was out there saying, I'm sick and tired of people calling it sanctuary cities, because they are not sanctuary cities. They're outlaw cities where they're being protected. These criminals who enter the country illegally, they are being protected. Now, we can see that Trump is out there. He's tweeting like crazy, and he's talking about the officials behind the unmasking. He's saying that they're high up. We talked about this, and we can see that this has nothing to do with Russia. It has nothing to do with anything like that whatsoever. It all had to do with political spying. And what's very interesting about this is that the Obama spying, well, it looks like it's going to get worse than even Trump claimed it was. It's really, really bad right now, and they're calling it Obamagate. And we see that, number one, surveillance targeting the Trump team during the Obama administration began months ago, even before the president had become the GOP nominee in July. The spying on the Trump team had nothing to do with the collection of foreign intelligence or an investigation into Russia election interference. The spying was done purely for political purposes that have nothing to do with the national security and everything to do with hurting and embarrassing Trump and his team. The person who did the unmasking was someone very well known, very high up, as we know. It was not FBI. Congressional investigators know the name of at least one person who was unmasking the names now. Now you can see why the deep state and the establishment are getting so worried about all of this. The House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, has known about the unmasking since January. The sources also gave Nunes the serial numbers of the classified reports that documented the unmasking. And there were only two places that Nunes could have seen the information. The Eisenhower Executive Office building on the White House grounds, which houses the National Security Council and has computers linked to the secure system containing the reports he sought. Nunes got access to that system, as we know, and basically he knows all this information. This is why the deep state, this is why the establishment, this is why they are so nervous, because they have the evidence now. They know who these individuals are. And this is why when you see the corporate media, this is why when you see Schiff and the rest of these individuals out there saying he has to recuse himself, we need him off the panel, we need the sources, we need to know all the information, because they're getting nervous now. Because all the information is going to come out. The floodgates are going to open up, and things are really going to get really darn bad here. And they know it. And they're trying to stop it. They're trying to head it off at this point. Now, we know that Trump is going to sign a bill to repeal Obama's broadband privacy rules. And from the corporate media, and I reported on this too, where we said, if he signs this law, then everyone's information is no longer private. But when we start to look into this a little bit further, we see some very interesting facts about all of this. Now, the privacy bill would repeal regulations adopted in October by the FCC under Obama administration. The regulation required Internet service providers, the ISPs, to protect consumer data more stringently than content providers such as Google and Facebook. So let's think about this for a second. ISP providers, where you're going through their service and data is flowing through, it can be encrypted. Maybe it's sometimes not encrypted, but most of the information is encrypted if you're dealing with banking, email now, and many other things. A lot of it is encrypted, especially those secure transaction type of things. And information that you're dealing with Google and Facebook, well, they have all your information. So when we look at this, the FCC required internet providers to obtain consumer consent before using location data, financial information, health, or information and web history for advertising. Phil Kerpen, president of the American Commitment, says this is a deliberate disinformation campaign. Up until 2015, the Federal Trade Commission protected consumer privacy, and then the FCC net neutrality order, well, they eviscerated the consumer protections at the FTC by preempting the FTC's jurisdiction. The FCC then came around and hammered ISPs with a draconian regulation that do not apply to Google or Facebook. Now, we know that Google and Facebook have a lot of information. They keep track of all your purchases. They keep track of where you're browsing. They keep track of pretty much everything, don't they? The president of the American Commitment said that Google is trying to rig the system against the ISPs. Google has this whole array of different groups defending their favorite regulations that put them in their favor. If you recall, Gigi Sohn, the counselor to former chairman Tom Wheeler, resigned from the FCC, and she's now at the Open Society Institute. Guess who she's working for right now? George Soros. And they're pushing a lot of money to these narratives that the information, the law needs to be with the FCC, and they're going to protect all the information from the ISPs, but allow Google, Facebook, and other internet giants to basically do whatever they want with your information. So the whole fight against the ISPs is a sideshow, he's saying. By far the biggest threat to consumer privacy is Google, that has trackers on over 60% of all websites. And Google owns YouTube, and they own many other platforms. And they have trackers everywhere. And we can see that they're trying to make it so Google, YouTube, Facebook, they are never regulated. Now, WikiLeaks was out there, and they exposed the U.S. government and their cyber budget, where they're saying that 90% of their cyber budget, well, it is used for attacking people, and 10% of it is on defense. And this is exactly why our cyber defense is terrible. Everyone was wondering how everything is getting hacked all the time, because we care more about hacking others than we do defending everything here in the United States. Because this is exactly what the CIA, the FBI, and all the others are doing. They're hacking into other governments. They're hacking into other individuals. Because truthfully, we care more about hacking than defending. Because they're the CIA, the FBI, and all these other intelligence agencies. This is what they do. They hack in, they blackmail, they spy. That's what these agencies are set up to do. And this is what they've been doing, not just here in the United States, but around the world. Why? To push their agenda. We see right now Russia, well, they have accused NATO of manufacturing the opioid crisis in Afghanistan, claiming that the United States directly benefits from the opium trade. And we know that the poppy fields, well, they are guarded by the United States government central bankers. Actually, the opium trade, it was going down before the United States got there. Poppy fields really didn't exist the way they do today. Now, according to a Russian diplomat, which is Sergei Lavrov, NATO is working with drug producers and traffickers to flood the world with opium. And he's saying that there's complete, clear evidence that since the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, the opium trade has skyrocketed. So what exactly is the evidence? Well, there was a 2014 report. The UN notes that the poppy production had reached all-time global highs with the shocking increases in heroin users worldwide. And the amount of land used for cultivating opium poppies around the world is at an all-time high, and Afghanistan is largely behind the increase, with its crops growing by 36% over a year, producing 80% of the world's opium. And when we look at this, and we've seen pictures of this before where the U.S. soldiers, they're guarding the opium, the poppy fields, I should say, and we can see right now that this is what they've been protecting in Afghanistan, because they use the poppy fields to create these drugs, and they sell these drugs worldwide to pay for their covert operations. Tillerson is out there, and he just came out and blasted Russia for Ukrainian aggression. And this is absolutely ridiculous. It looks like he's getting on board with the deep state, where he's saying that Russia is the main problem in Ukraine. And it was actually the United States who started the entire thing with the coup d'etat. And they're still there trying to push their agenda to take over the entire country. This is what they wanted from the beginning, to control the pipelines coming from Russia going into Europe. And this is why Joe Biden placed his son on the board of directors of one of the gas companies in Ukraine. John Kerry had his roommate go on the board of directors of one of the gas companies in Ukraine after the coup d'etat. The whole thing was planned. We see out in Libya, well, the Libyan foreign minister is out there saying, you know something, this EU naval operation called Operation Sophia, which was launched in 2015 to crack down on smugglers on the high seas. Well, it seems like it's having the opposite effect, actually, where it has not cracked down on any smuggling, and it has made the migrant process even worse, where they're picking up individuals and more people seeing the ships out there where they get picked up, that saying, okay, you know what, we can leave the country. And they bring them over to Greece, they bring them over to Italy, they bring them over to Turkey. And I think this was all part of the plan, to make it easier to get the refugees into these countries, to make this a huge problem throughout Europe. We see Iran right now is rejecting allegations by U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis, who said that Iran is the primary exporter of terrorism. And Iran and Syria and Russia are saying, well, no, that's not actually true. Maybe we should look at Saudi Arabia. Maybe we should look at the coalition forces who support al-Nusra, al-Sham, al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, because that's where the terrorism is. And we've seen this all along. That is where the terrorism is coming from. If you look at all the countries with al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, al-Nusra, al-Sham, Boko Haram, this has all been created by the CIA, Mossad, MI6, and the rest of the countries to put terror into all of these countries so the coalition forces can garrison these countries and take control of their natural resources. We see right now there's scare tactics going on by the corporate media where they're saying al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Remember, al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, they have been created by the U.S. government, by the intel agencies, to scare the people to give up their rights. And they're out there saying that they are getting ready to create a laptop bomb. Well, remember the shoe bomb? Remember the bombs inside women's breasts, bombs inside men's stomachs? This is just another scare tactic to make us believe that they're going to be placing a bomb in a laptop. And they're trying to explain away this is why there's a ban on laptops. Now, if you ever look inside of a laptop, there's not much room in there. It is crammed, with everything inside the laptop. If you ever open it up, you'll see there's really not that much room. So to get an explosive device in there is going to be pretty darn tough. Secondly, This is another scare tactic to make you believe that these terrorists are coming to get us. And of course, I wouldn't be surprised if they had some type of an event to scare people in giving up more of their rights. Because already we can see that people from certain countries right now can't bring their laptops on the plane. Pretty soon, they're going to want you to log into your laptop. Pretty soon, they're going to want you to look around the laptop, because to get a bomb inside a laptop and actually have it turn on and function is going to be quite difficult to do. But of course, they're going to try to make it seem like it is possible. But realistically, this is another scare tactic that the deep state is trying to push on the American people, just like everything else, because this is all part of their agenda. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.